Okie doke. Yeah, there we go. Not so bad. Let's see, let me try to turn this. There we are. Seems like it's working okay. Pablo. Gonna pause Pablo there. Okay. That's good. That's good. I think that I hide this bottom banner nowadays. Boop. Okay, it's gone. Now that I have this, welcome everybody. I missed last week. Last week's stream, I had some family stuff. I had to go to California, where I'm from, to help out with that, and I'll probably be going back to California sort of frequently. But I'm going to try to make the stream work. I'm going to try to arrange the travel so that way I can have some time. And it would be fun. Where I'm from is in the desert, and it's quite picturesque. It's not my favorite place in the world to live. It just doesn't suit me. But to go and visit and be reminded, not only be reminded where I came from, but it's just really gorgeous. There's this huge mountain that is like the backdrop, which is kind of cool because just to tie it in with Pablo Casals, because Pablo Casals, I forget the name of the mountain, but there's these quotes that he loved to mountain gaze. I think they talked about it. They talked about it in the first chapter of the book, or no, I think it was in the preface, which we didn't cover on the live stream. One of the prefaces or introductions or something. Anyways, big beautiful mountain that I could see. If I could set that up as the background, that'd be really cool. But I'm back here in Pennsylvania where it's not dry and it's not 100 degrees every day, which is really nice. I have my body has become very much acclimated to the Northeast. Although when I lived in New Orleans, that worked for me too. The desert heat, and yeah, it's just too much, man, for me. Today, because I just got home and I've been dealing with a lot of stuff, I didn't have a ton of time to prepare. I didn't have very much time to prepare at all, actually. So what I wanted to do with today's content is sort of keep it open as anybody in the chat, if you'd like to contribute anything that you would like us to watch, I would love to hear it. And I'd love to share it. Remember, our only limitation is it can't have been uploaded to a streaming service. But yeah, anything that's just good music you love, or especially accordion. But you know, these streams definitely are not limited to accordion music at all. And I'm gonna go through. I thought what's easy for me and fun, and maybe interesting to you guys too, is to go through my subscriptions, my YouTube subscriptions, which through these streams we look at so much stuff, and when I find channels that have a good video, you know, often when we're listening I'll even click through to the channel, to the YouTube channel, and see if there's other good videos, and if there is, I frequently subscribe to the channel. So I have all of these channels I'm subscribed to in my YouTube account, and we could go through and watch some of those. Those are fun. I think there's also something kind of enervating about, is that the right word? I don't know. What's the word enervating mean? Enervating. Oh no, the opposite of enervating. Enervating is feeling drained. Energizing. There we go. There's something energizing about the idea that it's new. Is that just me? A new video. Oh, this one's from 17 hours ago. So anyway, that's sort of the premise. And we're going to talk about the fourth chapter. However, when I get to the fourth chapter, you're going to see that I hit very soon into that chapter. I sort of hit a roadblock. But we're still going to get into it. We're still going to investigate it a lot, the content. But that'll be cool. All right, so what to start with? Let me say hi to the chat. Hey everybody, thanks for joining me. Who's in the chat? Energizing, yeah, thanks NYC. Hey Bertie Wooster, hey NYC, hey Tom Accordion, and anybody else watching out there on the other places to watch. Yeah, let's see, I know what I should do. I should fire that up. But in the meantime, why don't we check out, let's go to some of the subscriptions. We'll kind of warm up by checking out some of these subscription videos, and as I said, feel free to put videos in the chat here for us. I think my stream the content, or the quality rather, is looking good. I think I have a good bit rate. Nobody's complaining about the audio yet. Cool. All right, so let's go over here and see if I can sort of arrange this. I started going through and making a list, but then I thought it might be more fun just to kind of cruise through them together. Now, get this a little smaller here. Let's see, latest 7. There we go. Okay. I don't know. Is anybody into these YouTube shorts? I find them to be really annoying, but I'm old, so I don't know. Maybe you guys like them. Frequently there's like YouTube shorts that I like, but you're not allowed to add them to playlists. So that's really frustrating for me doing these streams. Okay, up at the top. 57 minutes ago, we got some Bolivian music. It's pretty cool. Tutorials for guitar music. Oh yeah, okay, here. 16 hours ago, let's check out this 1 minute Fajal musician. This is Mestre Jovinel Santos. And this is Nom da Música. Let's see. Listen to music. It's my life mission.
Ao vivo, aqui vídeo aula ao vivo, hoje vídeo aula ao vivo. Vamos ver se já estou aqui na minha ativa aqui. Vamos ver se eu já estou aqui. Dá um abraço aí para os amigos. Já estou. Pela primeira vez, vídeo aula ao vivo aí da música. Deixa eu ver o nome da música. Lembra o nome da música que eu passei para ti ali? Vida... Como é o nome da música? Boa noite, moçada. É vídeo aula da...
Ah, this isn't the video I was thinking of. Sorry. I was looking at a 1 minute video. Let's see, where is that one? My bad, guys. I'll find it. Should have prepared. Alright, we got a bunch of stuff from... Oh yeah, here's Yannicka. Let's watch this new Yannicka jam. Yannicka sitting on a couch. Very cool. All right. Man, music is healing. I like playing music. I like listening to music. Alrighty, let's see. Where's that Brazilian, the fall video I'm thinking of? It's probably here in this playlist I started making. Here it is. This is the one I was thinking. The same guy. Oh, okay, this is from 3 days ago. Here we go.
Yes, aqui, ó. Mata a saudade.
Cool. Alright, gotta pause that. Right on. Let's see. Let's listen to a couple more, and then we'll get into the book club topic, which is interesting. Okay. What else is here? Mi palomita. Yeah, let's check this out. Here we got 6 hours ago. What channel is this on? Is this from the Huayno? I forget. Dang. I forget what channel this is. Well, we'll find out.
Mi palomita se ha perdido, no sé qué brazos se encontrará. Era linda de ojos negros, ya no la he de ver. Era linda de ojos negros, ya no la he de ver. Mi palomita se ha perdido, no sé qué brazos se encontrará. Que se vaya para no volver. Que se vaya, que se pierda para no volver. Ya no la he de ver por su ingratitud. Que se vaya, que se pierda, ya no la he de ver. Que se vaya, que se pierda, ya no la he de ver. Ay, la 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 la. Que se vaya para no volver. Que venga ese segundita. para no volver, que se vaya, que se pierda, para no volver. Ay, 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 ay.
Cool. Hey. Oh. Cool, they got me.
Por tu ingratitud, que se vaya, que se pierda, para no volver, que se vaya, para no volver. Ay, la 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 la, ay la la la, la 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 la, que se vaya, que se pierda, para no volver.
Now it's over. Oh, they got me. Awesome. Hey, Shay Violin. I know the next one we're going to watch in honor of you. Very cool. And yeah, Bertie Wooster says, I've never seen that double-strung string instrument before. Sorry. I'm trying to go back. Yeah. I don't know what that is either. It's not a trace. Trace are bigger. And quattro is single strung. I don't know. Maybe somebody in the chat knows. Okay. For Shay Violin, we're going to check out this Jackson parody. DuckTales, which is a video game from my childhood. It always had super cool music. The DuckTales theme. A lot of Jackson parody covers video game music, but actually this is probably the theme to the cartoon. 1990s cartoon. After School. Key change. Cool. And he got a little like I don't know, honoring. I always felt like that DuckTales theme was like what do you call it? Huey Lewis in the News style, you know, like Ghostbusters theme. And I know Jackson Parody has some good videos on the music of Steely Dan. Like he talks about the Moo chord and stuff. Jackson Parody does have a video on that. That sounded, I don't remember that little like, that little 4-1 kind of coda thing. I think he put that in there. That's fun. All right, let's watch one more and then we'll kind of get into the topic of the, the book club for today. And yeah, Shay Violin says maybe that string instrument was a bouzouki. Maybe, I always thought that bouzouki's were longer, Shay, but maybe they're not. I don't know. Can I go back there? Did we get another glimpse of this musician? Maybe there's another video with that musician on it. This is just a guitar here. Guitar. Here, this one. Como te va, mi amor? Let's look at this one. There it is. On the left. Shay, does that still look like a bouzouki?
Una chispa en mi equilibrio, dinamita que estalló. Me tomé un poco más flaca, olvidarte y derrumbarme. Te creías un olvidado, otra vez me equivoqué. ¿Cómo te va, mi amor? ¿Cómo te va? Era en silencio la pregunta entre tú y yo. ¿Tú eres feliz, mi bien, sin engañar? Porque a mi puerta el amor nunca volvió. ¿Cómo te va,
Oh,
mi amor?
charango. Cool.
¿Cómo te va? Era en silencio la pregunta entre tú y yo. Tú eres feliz, mi bien, sin engañar, porque a mi puerta el amor nunca volvió. ¿Cómo te va, mi amor? ¿Cómo te va? Era en silencio la pregunta entre tú y yo. Tú eres feliz, mi bien, sin engañar, porque a mi puerta el amor nunca volvió. ¿Cómo te va, mi amor? ¿Cómo te va? En silencio la pregunta entre tú y yo. Tú eres feliz, mi bien, sin engañar, porque a mi puerta el amor nunca volvió.
Cool. Alright, one more, because there's, I don't know if you can see, all these like stage videos are from Festival de l'Accordéon Saint Laurent from like about a month ago, the beginning of July, I think the 7th, 8th, and 9th. And there's a whole bunch of performers here. There's two videos that I thought were cool. We'll watch them both before we get into the book club stuff. Let's see. First, we'll check out Anaïs. Anaïs is somebody that is, I think most of her training is from the cinema school with Jacques and Natalie. And she's a phenomenal performer. And Kayla, who's been on the live stream before, Kayla actually made friends with her over there because Anaïs also teaches. She's one of the additional teachers at cinema. And so Kayla got to know her there. And a few years ago, Kayla arranged for Anaïs to come over and play the Kotati Festival, and I think a couple other performances. Kotati is is Kotati Northern California? I think Kotati's Northern California, yeah. And then I think she did some performances in LA. And I met her I think I've run into her a few times, but sort of made her acquaintance the first time I was at cinema in France, which was August, about a year ago, actually, August of last year. Wow. Feels, I can't believe it's only been a year since I've done the cinema, people. Super cool. And they're just amazing. In fact, even this morning, I think this morning, I got a text from Natalie asking, how's your dad? That's the family that I have that's been sick. And they're just the coolest, kindest, most amazing people. Not to mention the most amazing musicians and teachers. Okay, so let's check out Anais here. Pasodoble. This is all like sort of music for dancing, like in the real musette tradition as it is today. What would be the best one? Sole Mio, Pistonette, Pasodobles. What tune is this? Oh, that's not Anais. Let's check out a Pistonette. This is a real showpiece, I know. Okay.
Merci.
Cool. All right, and ice shredding. And then the last video of this little segment, I think we're going to come back to this at the end, this little segment, and feel free to post stuff in the chat too, is from that same concert, but there's an accordionist who's dancing the waltz while she's playing, and I thought that was super cool. I just got to find the video. I have it saved already. Go to my playlist. I think I have it saved. Maybe I don't. Ooh, I don't. Give me 1 second to try to find it. It's not there. Ah yeah, here it is. Sylvie Nuage. pretty wild head movement. Yeah. Cool. That was fun. All right. Very cool. So, extend again. All right, go back to the chat. Yeah. Okay. So, maybe that instrument is a charango from Brazil. Maybe. We don't know. Cool. And then Sweet 16 said that outro is from You Make My Dreams Come True. Yeah. Of the DuckTales ending. Very cool. All right. So now we're going to move on to the next segment, which is the book club. Originally, I thought the book club was just going to last through July, but it's too much reading to try to get done. And it's very dense. And so today's chapter, or this week's chapter, is about it's chapter 4, Perceiving Time Relationships. And this chapter, I gotta say, I'm gonna quote some stuff and share segments of the book, but this chapter, more than the other chapters so far, I pretty immediately hit a brick wall in terms of understanding, having a real understanding of how Casals would do it. And that led me to wanting to understand this from different sources, you know, to wrap my head around it a different way, which is pretty cool. It's kind of like a fractal, you know, like the fractal. See if I can pull up a video of a fractal here. Nope. Sorry everybody. Fractal, always kind of spiraling in, building on itself. So the point of information, right? I'm trying to, the impetus for the Casals thing in the first place is getting turned on to a lot of these other ideas that I might call, I don't know, classical performance ideas, which have not been a very big part of my musical tradition, history at all. And I found a video during this exploration today while I was reading this chapter and going, like, I want to understand these ideas, but I can't because these little pictures and stuff, maybe for whatever reasons, I can't understand what they're saying. And, you know, now's a good time to kind of go over into the book. So let's see. Let me add this to here and then go back over here. Okay. So the highlighting is in blue, which is a little bit of a drag. Let me zoom in. All right. So here we go. It's a little bit easier to read. I'm going to read some of this out loud, enough to get the point across, and then we're going to kind of explore stuff. So the first little quote up at the top. The art of interpretation is not to play what is written. Casals said that. Okay, then I'm going to read the next block because I think it's pretty good. This is by the author, not by Casals, the next part. Since earliest times, song and dance have arisen freely and spontaneously, conveying messages of the human spirit which cannot otherwise be expressed. When, over the course of history, it was deemed useful to find ways of notating melody and rhythm, such markings were never meant to be representative of music itself in all its natural life, vigor, and subtlety. Now, I'm going to opinionate here. Just to summarize, written music was never supposed to hold everything. You know, I've always seen written music as necessary for sending it to somebody. You know, in many ways it can be very expedient to get your ideas across, especially when you have an ensemble of musicians. You know, quick turnaround time, for example. You know, you have people that are really skilled at reading. You can hand them a bunch of music and they can just do it like that. Whereas the other way, to learn it by ear, would probably be much more laborious. But what you can convey on the written music is lacking, and we all know this. But that is, you know, one of the big premises of this, and it is the job of the. I think the history of written music needs to have this as part of, not the history, the tradition of written music. You know, which I would call this classical music. It needs to have this also as part of the tradition. Is reminding you, okay, but it's not all there on the music. Respect the music, understand it, but it's not all there. Okay, so I'm going to keep reading. Where did I leave off? Okay. Such markings were never meant to be representative of music itself in all its natural life, vigor, and subtlety. Indeed, there is an old adage, not without truth, quote, when music is written down, it dies. How about that? The printed score is like a landscape painted on a cardboard facade. Sorry, I'm popping my peas over here. The printed score, this is the author saying, the printed score is like a landscape painted on a cardboard facade. Houses, trees, and hills stand stiffly side by side. These lifeless images are no more than symbols of a deeper artistic reality. They invite the interpreter to discover the world of experience of which they are the mere resemblance. I'll stop there. This is superb. Maybe they should have started the book with this, but that's okay. Every entry point into each one of these chapters is fabulous. I'll keep going. When the recreative spirit of the performer leads us through one of the painted doors that's in this cardboard painting, we suddenly find ourselves entering a three-dimensional realm. The forms take on depth. We perceive the movement of light and shadow. The air may be fresh with spring moisture or still as in the last days of autumn. A beautiful prose by the author. Here, beyond the facade, the houses caress the hillside like certain Andalusian villages which flow so naturally into the contour of their surroundings as to resemble the shapes of streams. It's beautiful. In these villages, the dwellings are related to one another by cohesive design born of instinctive feeling. Okay. All right. So it's a call to arms. It's imploring us to bring the things to life. You know, we have to add all that extra stuff, and that's the purpose of this book, is to promote our understanding and our enthusiasm to do such a thing, and to show these ways that Casals did it that were so powerful and expressive. This chapter, I found it really hard, and I'll show you. It's, you know, I'm sure a lot of it is my skill set and my familiarity with rhythm in classical music. Sorry, I read beyond. Okay, so here we go. Here's a quote from Casals, another very dramatic quote. The written note, Casals has said, is like a straitjacket, whereas music, like life itself, is constant, movement, continuous spontaneity, free from any restriction. There are so many excellent instrumentalists who are completely obsessed by the printed note, whereas it has a very limited power to express what the music actually means. Okay, cool. Let's see. I'll touch on some more stuff. The first few pages are very broad, like this. The vitality of musical performance is dependent upon the spontaneous feeling for rhythm communicated by the interpreter. Okay. Let's go a little bit further. Oh yeah, okay. And then we get into, I need to refresh the page. And then we get into some examples. Okay. And so what happens at this point, I'm going to show you so you understand, so you have a sense of understanding where I feel limited, is that then, like a very well-written book, it starts very broad. You know, okay, here's why you need this, right? This is like every self-help book. Here's why you need, here's what the problem is that you have, you know, and here's the benefits. So if you solve this problem, then, you know, the music is going to become alive and stuff. And now we're going to address specific points. So then throughout the rest of the chapter, the author, David Bloom, gets very specific about specific rhythms and how Casals would approach them. However, for me, without an audio recording, I'm really lost. I can sort of grasp it, but I just found it very tedious, and I found myself grasping at like, well, maybe it's kind of like this, maybe it's kind of like that. And so, like Duckbrook has said, a viewer, a regular watcher here, in past, that this book would be, you know, so helped by having an accompanying CD or recordings to listen to, you know, of Casals himself rehearsing the orchestra. Right here is how Casals did it. I hear it. So I pulled together a few things, a few examples for us, because I feel like through his description of how it's supposed to, you know, in words, right, which is an abstraction. Using words to explain rhythm it's an abstraction, you know. It's me telling you how food tastes. You will never have the taste of the food unless you taste the food. It's abstract. Then we can only get so far, and really I didn't find much understanding there. So I wasn't satisfied in my understanding, and I felt like my lack of understanding stopped me, prevented me learning any further. So let's see. Let's take this example here. Not this first one above, but this second one, dotted rhythms. So I'll read it. We're going to investigate a little bit, and then we're going to jump over to some other YouTube videos talking about rhythm that I think are quite fascinating and can begin to set us up. I'll speak for myself, begin to set me up into a more thorough understanding than maybe to come back or just to come back to this chapter at another point in my life. I don't know. So here on dotted rhythms. Dotted rhythms in particular are poorly served by notation. That's interesting. Nobody has ever told me that in my musical life. Except, you know, maybe Jacques Mornay, he didn't say that specifically, but there's like tango things that I've played for him, and he said, no, like you need to, it's not da da ga da, like say an eighth note and 2 16th notes, da da ga da, da da ga da. He'd say no, like the style wants da da ga da, da da ga da, da da ga da, da da ga da, not da da ga da, not. So the difference I'm singing, if you're not hearing it or understanding it, is an even subdivision. So eighth and 2 16th notes played metronomically perfect. Dum ticka dum, dum ticka dum. Or if I sang it using the way I was taught, 1 and a 2, 1 and a 2, 1 and a 2. Okay, it would be, let's see, I'm not even sure how to sing 30-second notes. I don't know how you say that, but dum digga da, 1 and digga da. So moving those 2 8th notes or those 2 16th notes back further, so they wouldn't be 16th notes. Ba digga da, da digga da. And so that's a way that, you know, I never made a rule out of it. I just thought, oh, Jacques is hearing the tango style this way, and so that's more of the style that's more the way you would interpret this sort of ornamentation, right? And in this case, in this chapter, the author is talking about breaking it down by types of rhythms, and how they're related to rests and that sort of thing. So in this case, dotted rhythms. I'll start again. Dotted rhythms in particular are poorly served by notation. Leopold Mozart tells us of certain passages where the dot is to be held rather longer. just like I sang. Da, digga da. Well, I didn't sing a dotted rhythm, but you get the idea. The first note is held longer. If their performance is not to sound too sleepy. Okay, yeah. The dot is to be held longer if their performance is not to be too sleepy. So that makes it more exciting. Da, digga da, or da, digga da, right? Which one is more exciting? Da, digga da, or da, digga da. I would say, we could see the da, digga da, the one that waits longer and goes faster, right? Kind of rushes into, falls, digga da, runs forward. It's more exciting. Less, not sounding too sleepy, right? Okay. The measurability of musical rhythm and therefore the accurateness of its notation is only approximate. Yeah. Okay. Cool. And then what's said over here? Divergence from arithmetical. This is boring. It doesn't get as close. Okay. Let me go to my examples. Let's see. I don't have this one, do I? Let me see. I pulled together some examples. I couldn't find any of these examples from Casals. And even if I could, they probably would be hit with copyright violation stuff. So I'm looking for, other orchestras, so that way it's okay to listen to them on the stream and then to have the stream stay up without being silenced or made, what do you call it? Not like, where you can't see it anymore. So, okay, I did find this Schumann, I can't even say this German one. Fünf Stück im Volkstan. I'm sure that's not how you're supposed to say it, but okay. So here's another pattern. This one I will draw your attention to, because we're going to listen to it, and then we're going to listen to another similar example after this. So the pattern of 8/8 quarter, I'm looking up here at the very top of the page, or 16th eighth, da da da, or da da da, da da da, or da da da, right? Is another figure which Casals believed often needs to be freed from bondage to the printed page. The two shorter notes, he observed, usually belong together in a slightly quicker grouping than the score indicates. Okay? So, you can see where it's notated here. I don't have this example for us to listen to inside the paragraph. At the bottom, you can see that this is from a Beethoven, the first piano concerto. What's notated is at the end of the paragraph, da 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 da, da 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 da. If it was eighths, da 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 da. I'll clap the chord notes. Da 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 da, da 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 da, da da da. That's what Beethoven wrote, and the idea is that Casals would say, jump, bidum, badum dum dum dum, badum dum dum dum, brum dum dum dum, brum dum, instead of daka dum dum dum, daka dum dum, right? Daka dum dum, brum dum dum dum, brum dum. More like a grace note that's starting on the beat. Brum dum dum dum, brum. That is the grace note is the one that's on the left. Okay, so then the game becomes to try to understand this, to practice listening, and so to try to understand what this might sound like. So here we have, this is Schumann's Fünf Stück im Volkstan, which is, I have this up. And so what are we listening for? What's the point here? The point is to understand that what Casals would do, or might do, to make it more musical, is to take the places where there's an arrow. The arrow is above 2 16th notes every time. And what Casals would do would be to not play them metronomically even, da-ka-da, dee-da, da-ka-da, dee-da, 16th, 8th, ba 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 ba. Not like that, but digga da digga da, something like that, or brum da brum da brum da. And so for this first example, I only collected one version to listen to. For the other example, I collected 3, and we can listen to all 3. So here is this, and what I'm gonna have to do, I'm gonna pull, let's see, I'll hit play, and then I'll pull up the music. Okay, and I think the idea is that, like the quote from Leopold Mozart is, I think that's Mozart's dad, we figured out on a previous stream. The quote is that by sort of rushing them, collecting them, you make it less sleepy, right? You make it more exciting. So the first question would be, in this performance, looking at this music here by this cellist, do you hear, what do you hear? Practice listening. Do you hear that the 16th notes are evenly played, or do they rush a little bit? In general, at the end of the 4-bar phrase, there's a slight pause of the tempo, but in general, once the phrase is going, it seems like a pretty regular tempo to me. Doesn't seem very elastic or rubato. What do you hear? Check in with the chat also, see if anybody's still listening. Cool. JKMT Airy. Oh, JK Mount Airy. Okay, yeah, I know who that is. Cool. I agree. That dancing was fun. Sorry for the non sequitur here. Just replying to the chat. But if you're listening and following me on this very cerebral approach to rhythm, which is kind of like what I hate about rhythm, I don't like. I think rhythm is movement, and it cannot be cerebral. You know, it is sensational in the sense of the senses of the body, the senses of movement, right? That's my concept. Let's slow it down and listen again. I'm not totally sure. A big part of me thinks that it is being rushed a little bit, that it doesn't sound exactly even, but I could be wrong. Especially that first one. Did-dum, did-dum, beep bum, beep bum, beep bum, beep bum, beep. So if I start the music, beep bum, 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 right? According to that, with humor. Beam bum beep bum beep bum beam bum. I'm not singing the right notes there, but you get the idea. Is that what we hear? No, it is being rushed. So cool, very cool. Beam bum digadum dee bum. Maybe that's even a little exaggerated, but. Boom bum beam boom beep boom beam bum beep bum bum boom bum beep bum. But it doesn't feel like beep bum beep bum. It's dididum dididum beam bum beep beep dididum dida. One more time, then we'll go on. Okay, Cool. And this is a new idea for me. And I found a fantastic video that explains why it is a new idea for me. And maybe for you too. Maybe not for Shay Violin if Shay is still watching, but and maybe not for others of you with classical backgrounds. But for me, without classical backgrounds, this is a new point of consideration. Okay, so that's one example of this. And now we'll go and listen to another example, which is which one? It is, I need to find it. No, not there. Here, the Beethoven Piano Concerto number 4, the beginning of the second movement. And where is that in the music here? Oh yeah, okay, here it is. Right. Oh, but you don't see that. Okay, right here. So this is early in the chapter. I'll move it up here. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna look at right below the blue highlighting there. So the author, David Bloom, says, in passages such as the following, the quote, natural rhythm that Casals requested had a radically energizing effect, in contrast to the written note values, which he sometimes described as, which Casals sometimes described this radically energizing effect as, quote, no rhythm at all. Okay, so if we look at this, we're trying to understand how let's see. We're looking at the eras here, which are over sempre staccato, marking in the music at the end of the first measure. And we want to understand what Casals would do to that. And this is, kind of frustrating. All we know, is the words that are stated, which is what's written here. The dotted rhythms, which an interpreter of lively rhythmic sense feels a little shorter. The dotted rhythms are a little shorter, and therefore places a little later than prescribed by notation. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the first recording here of the Beethoven Piano Concerto number 4. And bring us back to full speed. Okay, we'll listen to another one. Take us back again. So, bum, ba-dum, bum, yum, de-dum. So I think it's the energy, the energizing movement. Dum, da-dum, da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, is really playing the, what are those? 64th notes? 30-second notes. The 30-second notes faster. Be-dum, ba-dum, bum, yum, de-dum, ba-bum. Let's hear a third version. Let's see, I need to find that place. Smart. Oh yeah. It's okay. And none of these three versions seem to really exemplify this example, but I still think it's good to listen. I think we learn from both. We learn when we hear the thing, and we learn when we don't hear the thing. You know, we're studying and practicing listening for it. So, okay. That being said, now I'd like to go to some stuff that I find more elucidating or better for where I'm at with my idea of understanding rhythm. And yeah, that's a good way to say it. So I started searching for search terms. Once I felt like, oh man, like I'm seeing more of these examples, and like I can sort of vaguely imagine, but I don't really feel certain about it. And that's a thing for learning. It's like it's hard to move forward in a direction when you have uncertainty. It's very hard. It's hard to build on uncertainty. We need certainty, which is why I often tell my students, if you have a question, email me, and I'm going to try to get back to you as soon as I can to answer your question. You know, if it's about what to do, how to do, am I doing this right? It's very, very, very important. So then I started searching for that stuff I started searching on the subject of classical rhythm. And one of the first videos I found was
the way that classical musicians
really, really helpful. And we're going to watch it. It's somebody that you probably know, this guy, Adam Neely. Now I need to make Adam viewable here. And this is an interesting video because Adam has like a follow-up apology to this video, and other people have like a reaction to this video calling Adam, saying that Adam is wrong about certain things in here and ignorant and also kind of mean. Nevertheless, I think many of the points here are validating of my experience, illuminating from my experience as a musician, because my tradition, and I suspect yours, revolves around this idea of playing to a pulse and locking into a groove. And well, with no further ado, I'll let Adam do the talking here, and then we'll talk about it.
Musicians feel rhythm can be very different from the way that rhythm is felt by musicians who play jazz, rock, or pop music.
Oh, let me go to the chat here. Thanks, J.K. Mount Airy. Sounded pretty regular to me, except for the rubato breaks, as you indicate. And then, yes, slowed down, it is less even. Yeah, I had to slow it down to really determine. And that was the first example, the Schumann, I think it was. Okay, so now to the Adam Neely video. Here we go.
Music, or really any music from the past 100 years that has its origins in West African rhythms. Professional classical...
Let me start this again. The first premise is important.
The way that classical musicians feel rhythm can be very different from the way that rhythm is felt by musicians who play jazz, rock, or pop music.
And other kinds of folk music, I would add.
Or really any music from the past 100 years that has its origins in West African rhythm.
And I would also add that has its origins in folk dance music that has repeated rhythms, I think.
Professional classical musicians are known for their tone color and their control and their dynamic range, but very often rhythmic facilities in classical musicians can be left a little bit wanting. For example, check out this actual instructional video from this double bass professor who teaches at the University of Washington, who talks about the importance of being able to...
Now we're gonna skip this part because it's been, well, we'll watch it, but this morning I watched other videos debunk this and explain why it sounds like he's not playing on the beat, but he actually is, because of the way the metronome's set up. This is one of the things that Adam Neely has been called out about.
To accurately perform quarter note triplets, and then he doesn't quite accurately perform them.
There are a lot of places here where you have to play 3 against 2. So you have to do this da 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 da. So
okay, so what's going on here? This guy's been teaching at the University of Washington for 24 years and can't perform this very simple rhythm. What gives? 3 years ago, I walked into a rehearsal studio to rehearse music for the master's.
And what the explanation is that the metronome was set to eighth notes, and he's playing the quarter note triplets against the metronome set to eighth notes, is what I read as some of the defense of that video.
Recital of Wim Layson, a Belgian composer and pianist. Wim got together an ensemble of a classical string quartet and a jazz rhythm section, and so we sat down to sight read a piece of music in 9/8. The basic pulse of this piece of music was 2 + 2 + 2 + 2 + 1. So it was sort of like 4/4, but with an added eighth note. So we sight read through the music pretty decently, but we in the rhythm section train wrecked when we got to a measure that was accidentally notated like this. In this particular measure, it looks like the unit pulse is actually a group of 3 eighth notes, or a dotted quarter note, instead of the unit pulse that we were supposed to be feeling, which was a quarter note. This is why when you're writing music in odd time signatures, it's extremely important to get the beaming of the eighth notes right, because it shows the unit pulse of what you're supposed to be feeling. Now, we in the rhythm section train wrecked when we first came across this, but the classical string musicians kind of just sight read through it with no problem whatsoever. So my initial reaction to this, like most people's reactions are when they're confronted with the virtuosity of a well-trained classical musician, is that these musicians were simply superhumanly good sight readers of a caliber of musicianship far, far higher than mine as a lowly jazz musician. This artifice was shattered quite spectacularly a couple months later when we actually went to record the music as part of our album Inside Outside. We used the same classical string quartet, and they performed most of the album quite brilliantly, but they had a lot of problem with this particular rhythm. This 16th note syncopation they could never really quite play cleanly, and so we actually had to fix it in post-production. This confused me, because I saw these same classical musicians perform these very technical feats of musicianship, and yet this simple rhythm that I and the rest of the rhythm section had no problem with, they could not really play very cleanly. Why might that be? One framework to understand this, and this is generalizing a little bit here, is that classical musicians react to the pulse, and jazz, rock, pop, etc. musicians feel the pulse. Classical musicians will very often perform in an ensemble under the direction of a conductor, and the conductor's job is to keep everybody in sync, not unlike a drummer does. Orchestral musicians will react to the ictus of a conductor's baton or a conductor's breathing, and then they'll count rhythms based upon the pulse that they are seeing. This might give some insight into why Wim's string quartet could sight read that music that was contrary to the pulse of the rhythm section. For the rhythm section to accurately play these rhythms, we needed to graft the subdivisions onto the actual pulse, and it was very difficult to do that when visually the pulses did not align. So the result of all of this is classical musicians might have a good sense of rhythm, but not have a good sense of what's called phase locking. Check out these two metronomes, one on my phone and one on my iPad. They're both clicking away at 120 beats per minute, and yet they're not phase locked. The downbeats do not align with one another. A big part of locking into a groove is not only keeping the same tempo, but also phase locking with the other musicians in a particular ensemble. Watch this video of Leonard Bernstein conducting Mahler's Fifth Symphony. No, the video and audio are not out of sync in this one. This is an extreme example of where the orchestra and the conductor are not phase locked, but it is a common sort of occurrence in classical ensembles where not everybody is playing perfectly in sync. This actually is not a huge pressing problem for orchestral music, and the reason for this is that the initial attack transients of strings and woodwinds generally are fairly soft. If the initial attacks of each one of the notes are not 100% phase locked, it actually doesn't sound particularly bad. This is very much not the case for any style of music that relies upon drums. The initial attack transient of a drum is very sharp and very short, so if any other instruments or any other drums are out of phase with that initial attack transient of the drums, it sounds kind of bad. It's a rhythmic dissonance known as a flam, and it can be particularly vexing. This rhythmic dissonance is what makes things sound not locked in, or not grooving, or not together. And it's not as huge a deal with orchestral music because of the softer initial attack transients. Check out these two examples. They both use the exact same MIDI data, which is not 100% phase locked. But in the first example, you have softer attacks and slower attacks, and in the second example, you have much sharper and shorter attacks. So So classical musicians might not apply the same rigor to the study of phase locking as other musicians do, but that doesn't mean that they have poor rhythm, it just means that rhythm is sort of applied in a slightly different way. In string quartet music, for example, the rhythm sort of ebbs and flows, and it's a lot more fluid and goes with the melodic line. Let's check out Maurice Ravel's first string quartet, he actually only wrote one string quartet, in F major. Is the pulse metronomic? No, of course not. If everything was completely even, it would sound very stilted and unmusical. So the music itself requires this very different understanding of rhythm as a whole, and so the musicians themselves are more apt to apply that understanding. So it's a little unfair to bemoan classical musicians' lack of phase locking because the music itself requires a completely different understanding of rhythm in general. If you want to check out a great string quartet that has a great jazz rhythmic sensibility, check out the Turtle Island String Quartet. This has been Adam Neely. If you've enjoyed this lesson, please comment, please like, please subscribe, do all of those things. I have a new lesson coming out every Monday.
Okay, that's the end of the video. Now, Adam Neely has a follow-up video where he talks about how he was called out on some things that people said he didn't understand properly, and some he admits and some he says he does understand accurately in terms of talking about classical musicians versus jazz or other traditions of feeling rhythm. And then there's another video that I watched by another YouTuber who really is really trying to sort of come at Adam Neely. I'm not going to watch either of those, but I do think that these the basic premise of this of internalizing the pulse and seeking to reach one pulse together as a group, each musician, versus this idea of maybe reacting to where the pulse is, seems to be pretty true and resonate for me. I wonder how that sounds to any of you in the chat. But this idea of the moving pulse, that the moving pulse is absolutely maybe the point of music, I think is necessary for me to move through the chapter on Casals approaching rhythm, and of course, in addition to hearing actual examples of what's to be done, because it's just I need that, I don't have the framework, I don't have the foundation of this stuff to really understand this chapter well, I think. So I looked for other videos also, because a picture's worth 1,000 words, right? And I did find some others. Of course, they're not the great legendary Pablo Casals, but I think they're very fine musicians. Here's one that I think is... This one, let me know if you can't hear it. I'm going to try... Let's see, what can I do? I'm going to try to turn this part up in my... Let's see. Let me see if I can do that. Turn this video up here because it's kind of soft. This violinist, David Chang, is what? He's the first violinist for the Metropolitan Opera, I think. If I'm going to represent him. David Chang has been the concertmaster at the Metropolitan Opera since the year 2000. He's on the faculty of Juilliard and the Mannes School of Music. This guy knows his shit. And I think this is exactly what the chapter of the Casals chapter is about. So let's watch this.
Hi, I want to talk a little bit about rhythm today. Not everything there is to say about rhythm, of course, but one specific idea, and that's the idea of letting the content of your expression drive the rhythm. Let me give you two famous examples from the orchestra audition literature. Or That, of course, is from the slow movement of Prokofiev's Classical Symphony. Another example comes from the third movement of Beethoven 9. Or so clearly the problem in both of these instances is a failure to hold the long note the correct length of time compared with what follows. And the common wisdom of how to work on this is to subdivide.
I'm going to pause this and say, to my ears, to my not deeply steeped in classical music ears, I don't hear a whole lot of difference between the two of those. However, I'm on board, I'm on board to learn.
Feeling eighth notes inside that long note to hold it the correct length of time. While that is not wrong, it can be hard to put into practice, to translate it into your actual playing. So allow me to suggest another way to think about this. And I'll use the phrase, content dictates rhythm. Content dictates rhythm. What do I mean by that? Well, going back to the Prokofiev, it would mean feeling those 3/8 subdivisions, but building them expressively in a way that you're forced to release at the correct time. So if you'll pardon my singing voice, it'd be something like 1 and 2 ya-da-dum, ya-da-dum, ba-da-dum. With the violin. So yes, subdividing, but feeling those eighths build inside so that they release to the next note at the correct time. This takes it out of the realm of abstraction and into expression.
This is cool because this is how I think too, that counting is still an abstraction. We're taught in the conventional sort of pedagogy of learning music and approaching rhythms, we're taught, well, if you want to understand rhythms, you have to count them. And I did that diligently as a piano student working, when I was a young person, I played a lot of boogie woogie, and I played a lot of ragtime music. That was like what I loved when I played piano as a, preteen and teenager. And that stuff I had to count out, and it's all, highly syncopated to get the two hands together. And it was really helpful, but I didn't internalize it in my body, at that point. And it gets you closer to being able to understand it, but you have to turn it into, it has to come back and transform back into music, or you need to find ways to not need to abstract it like that. I'm not sure that I have a way to do that, to say. I think it is important to abstract it to the intellectual and then return it. For David Chan, he's saying that the counting is in the feeling, that there's, as we've been talking about also, there's rhythm in the dynamics. So if I say movement, I would say movement rather than rhythm. There's movement, right? So if I say, here's our click. Da, da, I'll do it without snapping. Da, da. I'll do it without moving my hand. Da, da. Now. Da, da. Da, da. Or da, da. I have not changed the note. I have not added more notes. I haven't changed. But when we have changes in dynamic, we feel more movement, right? And that's what David Chan has added here. So it's a way of adding rhythm, of adding movement, right? I keep saying rhythm when I want to say movement, because that's what this is all about. All of music is a linear thing, I think. I don't know. I'm not that smart of a guy, but
This takes it out. So yeah, with the violin.
Let's hear him sing it first.
1 and 2, ya-da-dum. Ya-da-dum, ba-da-dum.
Oh, dee da dum, doo da dum. I think he even delayed it more. Do, dee da dum. Let's study this. It's pretty cool.
Ya-da-dum,
Oh, dee da dum.
ba-da-dum.
I don't quite have it.
Ya-da-dum.
Yeah. Oh, dee da dum. And it's just so beautiful because with our voice, our natural tendency is always to round things and to make these releases very naturally. We always do with our voice, because we feel it. We feel it with our voice. Whereas on the instrument, the accordion I'll speak to, it's it's much harder to hear it. It doesn't come as intuitively. And now we'll hear him play it.
With the violin. So yes, subdividing, but feeling those eighths build inside so that they release to the next note at the correct time.
It gives us a presentness. We don't have to. The number doesn't have an emotional quality to it. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's no present. You cannot. When we're counting, that is an intellectual measurement, but it doesn't have an emotional quality. Whereas if we're following this movement of getting louder, then we're present with it, and our spirit, our expressive spirit, is connected to it in a way that makes it greater, if for nothing else than for us as the artist. And then I think almost always, if a person is alive and awake and paying attention, it's different for the listener too. Which is interesting too. I think it's nice to think that we are both the creator and the listener at once, and we have to be. It's a weird what's it, Ouroboros, the snake that's eating its tail. And there was recently there was an event with the ATG teachers group that we're going to do another one, I think in September. And this particular one, we sent out as actually a big section of a academic tome, and it was to me highly academic writing, and you gotta read it a few times and think, what the hell are they trying to say? Okay, terminology for everything, and a way of writing and speaking and thinking that I don't do daily. But one of the things that they early in the chapter, and they kept referring back to it, always musicers and listeners, right? Musicers and listeners was always encompassing in these ways of knowing music. So musicer meaning, and we discussed this, because we all read it and we got together in a group meeting, and it was a little book club, but a Zoom thing. So we were all interacting. So what is a musicer? What is a listener? And why call it musicer? Okay, that's whatever. But why have the two of them? And I think it's really, really important. We can make the music, but at the same time as we're making the music, it doesn't mean that we're also listening. And we have to be doing both, because it's really by doing both that we feel the thing, and then also we're listening to the sound that's actually being made, which is, we're trying to make it be the same, but we don't know if it is the same, and actually it's not the same. The thought of the sound in our head and the sound vibrations touching the hairs in our ears and stuff and shooting, those are different. Those are two different experiences, and it's important that we have them both.
This takes it out of the realm of abstraction and into expression.
I love it.
Another
David
way
Chin.
content can dictate rhythm is for you to simply give your phrase a text. Take, for example, this famous problem from Mozart 39.
Now this part of it, I think, goes more to the previous chapter, which was about diction and music.
Or often when I teach this excerpt, the player goes from one to the other, too triplety, then overdotting and giving me no line. So how does one get both? I'm not going to pretend it's easy, but if you sing da 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 with triplets, listen to the text. It's all da 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 da. But what if I were to change the syllables to da ya ba da ba da? Somehow the variety of saying ba da gives a little bit more energy to the rhythm, and that's exactly what we need. So translated to the violin. So there it is. Don't let playing rhythmically and with correct rhythm become an abstract process.
There you go. And that is the treatise, the premise of chapter 4 of the Casals book.
Make it part of your creative expressive process, where the actual content of your expression drives the rhythm and binds it into an integral part of your playing. That's it for today. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
And I would say, a lot of these things I'm positive that we all do intuitively. The intuitive creative process. No, that's not right. No, that's not right. I want it to feel a little bit more this way, And intellectualizing like this is just a tool. It's just another method. Some people love it. Some people hate it. For me, it's something I want to be doing right now. And I think if you're watching this stream, you're enjoying it. If you're reading the book, you're definitely enjoying it. Let me check in and see if there's any comments. Yeah, there is. Cool. Okay. Thanks, Swing Bassa. I'm going to address Swing Bassa's comments here. Okay, this description makes a lot of sense to me, both in the attack and the way rhythm works in classical/orchestral music. That's what Swing Bassa says. Very cool. To me, too. And then Swing Bassa says, that conflict in approaches has been clearly demonstrated in choro/Brazilian music, with classically trained musicians consistently being both late to pickups and holding notes for their full written length, which can actually get them out of rhythm, out of phase, like the Adam Neely phase locking thing. So classically trained musicians, in Swing Bassa's experience, being late to pick up notes and also holding the notes for what's technically correct on the page, but not right for the groove. And the problem is that then they're getting out of the groove. I'm just adding more to what Swing Bassa says, because you're not reading the comment like I am. Let's see, which can actually get them out of the rhythm phase easily when the actual music requires more staccato delineated notes. Yeah. Cool. Thanks for sharing that, Swing Bassa. Alrighty, I've got a couple more videos to check out that are application, talking about applying rhythm, ideas of rhythm, and where it's appropriate. I'm interested to try this video by this YouTuber who has a lot of content, very well made content, Mami Shikimori. And on this one too, I feel like the videos could have been recorded with the microphone closer to Mami's face. That's okay. Gonna do my best here. This video is titled Secret to Irresistible Rhythm, 4 minutes long. Pardon me.
Hello everyone, I'm Mami at New Tips Piano Series. I have just recorded a video talking about Chopin's Ballad No. 3, and there was one more thing I wanted to say about the piece, so this is a kind of supplementary video to the last one. In the last video, I was talking about trying to find more three-dimensional sound, and that actually applies to rhythm and timing, as well as voicing and experimenting with different touch. The point I want to make is that the musical movement is curved. It's not a two-dimensional flat surface. I occasionally get questions from people who ask, how do you play a passage evenly? And I often wondered if that may be a wrong starting point, because artistic, expressive things are rarely mechanically even. Should we be concerned instead with how to make things more uneven, expressive, variety of sounds? I certainly don't mean we should mess around with the timing and kind of.
That's cool. I like that. Should we be more concerned with how to make things more uneven, more variety, more expressive variety of sounds? I think that's what she said in her little pop-up thing. Where was that? Oops. Now I can't find it.
Should we be concerned instead with how to make things more uneven, expressive, variety of sounds?
Yeah.
I certainly
Yes, we should. Of course, we agree with you.
don't mean we should mess around with the timing and kind of controlling from the outside. This bit a bit later and this a bit softer and distort rhythms according to our personal feelings and taste. It's not like that, but it's more a way of letting the musical impulse carries you. The reason I want to take these octaves in two hands instead of taking time over this like this is because I don't want to lose the underlying motion of harmonic motion of 4 bars in one breath. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You don't want to be counting accurately and evenly like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That can sound like an Amazon delivery person knocking on the door. Hello, you there, parcel? This is just like a gentle swaying in the wind.
Yeah.
In this piece, there's quite a lot of this downward falling slurred figure, like a. Yeah.
And this, I would touch back on the Adam Neely video because this approach is. It's obvious when you hear it described, you know, and you go, oh yeah, of course, that sounds correct. But I don't know. For me, like, okay, what's the subdivision? What's the, you know, I'm not. It isn't my go-to nature to think of sculpting the rhythms, I guess, you know, sculpting the sound, the touch, yeah, but always sort of locked into this sort of pulse,
Which becomes how. You want to be riding in this musical wave, feeling swept away by the overarching, sweeping motion of this gesture. Get into the essence, flow, and impulse of the music. I think it's helpful to find the underlying harmonic direction first.
I think it's helpful to find the harmonic, the underlying harmonic direction first. Yes, so cool. Let's listen to how she's playing the harmonic direction. So classical music would call those cadences. I would call them chord progressions.
But to find the underlying harmonic direction first.
Subdominant, dominant, tonic to a minor. And how does she play with volume, the resolution? She's not hitting us over the head with it. Louder, much softer. So it's ba da da. It's getting softer and softer, which I think is quite illuminating, not obvious when we go to play something, you know. Why? I don't know why, but it's not. Again. Da, da, da. Very exciting. So now she's adding all the stuff on top of it.
There are more.
Okay, then that's the end of this idea. Very cool. Mammy, I hope to visit you more. Mammy has a very cool approach, very musical based approach. Subscribe. I'm now subscribed. Okay, and there's one more video that I had chosen for this subject, who's an old friend of the channel. Is it his name Robert Livingston, I think? No, Robert Estrin. That's what it is. Robert Estrin. Here we go. All right, so another about 5-minute video, and also Chopin, the classic Chopin rhythm. But here we go.
Hi, I'm Robert Estrin. This is livingpianos.com. Today's subject is why you must have rhythmic tension in your music.
Rhythmic.
Rhythmic tension?
Rhythm.
What is this? What am I talking about? Well, you know, there's a funny thing. I'm going to demonstrate for you why it's so important for rhythmic tension in music and how you create it. By taking a piece of music that is a dance form, a waltz, there must be some distortions to the rhythm. Now you think, my gosh, to distort the rhythm? Isn't this sacrilegious? Shouldn't you play exactly what the composer wrote? Well, truth be known, the composers only wrote these notes down as a guideline, a skeleton of the composition you must flesh out. So
there you go. Once again, connecting us to the very first part of the 4th chapter. I wish I could quote some of this stuff off the top of my head, but yeah, the music, simply playing what's written on the page only, not adding any of our souls or looking to understand the music and add all the other pieces, the music is dead.
So, for example, if I were to play a brief excerpt of a Chopin waltz with no rhythmic distortion, just absolutely straight where you could play it to a metronome, this is what it would sound like.
He's still doing a little tiny bit of rubato, but I bet you just can't not do it. Yeah, see? He just can't. I bet you just can't.
No, I did my best job I could at creating the shadings, the expression, and playing faithfully to the score. But it sounds lifeless, doesn't it? Why is this? Well, there has to be motion in music, and I chose a waltz for a good reason. Because dance music, and a waltz obviously is a dance form, by its very nature, is based upon motion, the motion of the dance. A waltz has a strong first beat, 1, 2, and a third beat that kind of leads to the next first beat. So you get a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. And it's not just the emphasis, but it's a pull from one beat to the next. And this rhythmic distortion is essential to be able to get the right feel, not just where it's obvious in 19th century music with rubato, or in this case of Chopin waltz, but even in earlier period music, not in such an obvious way, but it has to be there in order for the music to come to life. So listen to that same brief excerpt of this Chopin waltz, allowing this rhythmic liberty or distortion or whatever you want to call it, and hear the difference for yourself.
And I think the pieces all work together. So to add the dynamics, to add the shading of the variances of touch and articulations and that sort of stuff, and the way he's phrasing it all in Robert's musicianship, it all combines together, you know, as it should, as it all is. You know, to explore, we cut things apart and we say, oh, we're talking about this aspect of the music, but you really can't play. They're all there when we play, you know. And so it all works together. So him being able to use, what did he say? Distort the rhythm helps. The distorted rhythm helps. And I find that too, like when I'm demonstrating stuff to a student, or trying to take, like, for example, the Palmer Hughes books. And I think it's a fun puzzle to go, okay, take the Palmer Hughes books, but learn them with great musicianship. You know, this is like something I've definitely picked up from Jacques, and it's a fun sort of torch to carry. Okay, we're going to start with just very, very basic music, but make it expressive, make it musical. And what I find myself doing, I think even a couple streams ago, I used some Palmer Hughes stuff for shaping. It benefits also from shaping the rhythm as well. So if we have dee dum da dum da dum da, right? That simple melody I could shape the dynamics da dum da dum da do do, right? I could shape it, I could try all sorts of things. It's still gonna sort of sound weird until I do something else rhythmically with it. Da dum da dum da dum da da dum da dum da dum. And it's because I want to tell. It's the way I might describe it right now, creatively, to use a metaphor, is a well-written story that has no separations of punctuation, you know, one to another, you know, and that by adding periods and commas and separating things into new paragraphs, we create rhythm, right? We create a flow in there. Which makes it more intelligible, more understandable. And in the case of if our challenge is to make something very, very simple, like the melody I just sang, to make something very, very simple for the beginner, to be very expressive, right? To be connected to a feeling right in there, then we need to do these things. We need to, I don't really like the word distort, but we'll use that word. We need to distort the rhythm. We need to distort the dynamics, I guess. It's not the best words for it, but so they both have to be there, because we cannot have one without the other, you know. Alrighty, let's finish up Robert's video. This is fun. I'm feeling better today than when I started this live stream, which isn't to say I don't like the live streams, but my life has been a little challenging with family stuff. And man, music is a gift of. If I hadn't found music, I don't think I would have as nice a life. It really makes makes life worth living in a lot of ways. Not every way, but in a lot of ways.
Now, how do you know if you're distorting rhythm too much? You certainly don't want to play different rhythm from what the composer wrote. Well, here's the key. In the first example, it could be played right to the metronome, spot on every beat. The second one, while it would not be possible to have a metronome ticking and playing along with it perfectly, there's never a gain or loss of any beats. And more importantly, if you try to tap along, you'll feel the pulse. So I'm pulling you with me in the performance, and that's what makes it so compelling. So that's why you must have this rhythmic variety in your music, And you could call it distortion, but it is absolutely essential in order to bring your music to life. I hope this has been interesting.
Thanks, Robert. That was cool. Okay. Alrighty, I'll check back in with the chat. Yeah, no new comments. That's all right. I'm going to end the live stream just a few minutes early today. I have to go to the doctor. I had to fly out, last week. Or the week, yeah. But before that, I broke my toe. I broke my big toe. And the big toe seems kind of important on the foot, more so than the other toes. If it was just a littler toe, I wouldn't. But anyway, only today am I able to come back and get it looked at. So I'm going to go to the doctor. This is fun. This parasocial relationship. I'm sharing more and more of my personal life on the stream. I don't want to share too much. But I'll tell you that I gotta go. Before that, though, check out what Swing Bassa said. I recommend this Maxim Vengerov. Oh, yeah, cool. Well, we're definitely gonna watch some of this then. That's cool. Thank you, Swing Bassa. Let's see. Oh, cool. Really cool. Can I, though? Oh, I'm a little... No, we can't watch it on the stream, but I'm gonna share it with everybody to watch. So this is a suggestion from Swing Bassa in the chat, who always posts really cool, interesting stuff. Maxim Vengerov, so Swing Bassa says, I recommend this Maxim Vengerov masterclass for how to focus on the, quote, story in music rather than just the notes. Fantastic. And here it is. And I'll post this when I post the video and all that sort of stuff. Very cool. Thanks for sharing this. I'll put this with the playlist here. Cool. All right, so let's talk about... I said I was going to end. I got to say, what is the next chapter? Let's see. Go to the next chapter here. Dude. The next chapter is Insights for String Players. I'm not a string player, but I play with, I would say, violinists most commonly as far as string players. Upright bass players are string players too, but they don't often play with a bow in the context that I play with them. So I'd imagine this is not going to give me greater insight to that, but this will be cool. Very interesting. And that's chapter 5. And we're approaching halfway through this book. That's okay. Cool. All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I will be back next Tuesday, regular time. Everybody be great. Explore distorting your rhythms. Explore maybe rushing your collections, groupings of too fast notes, or when a note is fast, maybe dun, digga-dun, 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 digga-dun. And just have a great life full of music and friendship and people that you like being around, and good health.